Today, of course, is also the introduction of the Police and Crime Bill. So, according to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, we're going to be clamping down on vicious thugs. We're going to be stopping people from shoplifting. We're going to be stopping people from stealing your phone. We're going to be stopping people from riding around on e-bikes willy-nilly without paying any attention to the law. And, of course, we're going to be stopping all manner of criminal activity by somehow changing the law to make the criminals behave better. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. But perhaps Victoria Atkins can help me. She's the Shadow Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Victoria, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Sorry, I was chuckling with your description of Ed Miliband, sorry.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to make fun of Ed Miliband. I mean, he presents himself in such a ridiculous way. What can I say?
It would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
That's true.
I'm very conscious the conversation that you are having. This is a blow to households across the country facing their third consecutive price rise for energy under this Labour government. And don't forget, this government they campaigned last year promising us all that they would decrease our energy bills by some £300.
Yeah.
Instead, what have we got? We've got an energy company that doesn't actually produce any energy. We have prime agricultural land being plastered by solar panels and wind farms, and as you've rightly said, they have refused to look again at the oil fields in the North Sea, which we need because we need energy today, not in 10 years' time.
Yeah, I mean, only yesterday we were talking about BP, which used to be called British Petroleum. It's now called Beyond Petroleum, and the company has more or less been driven into the sea and is about to go under and is about to be bought by an American hedge fund because they went green and they went for this net zero nonsense, and now it looks like they're actually so vulnerable to a takeover because the company is so weak, its share price has fallen so much that they're in terrible trouble. And that's what will happen to our economy if we continue down this mad road, which I have to say, without wishing to be rude, Victoria, you guys introduced us to.
Well, look, I think there is absolutely a place for sensible, thought-through, renewable energy policy. So, for example, I would love to see great big warehouses, we know the ones we mean on the M1 and elsewhere, those distribution warehouses with their roofs filled with solar panels. That can make a real difference to our energy supply, because I think we all appreciate we need a diverse range of supply. But my gripe with this is that instead Ed Miliband has been overriding local residents' opinions and just plastering solar farms on prime agricultural land. We've seen it in my home county of Lincolnshire, and my worry is that this government has such a lack of understanding and, dare I say it, care about our countryside and our coastal areas that they will ride roughshod over local opinion, putting their ideology before the views and the feelings of local people who, by the way, have been looking after this wonderful countryside. If you think of our farming families for generation after generation, and instead we have these diktats from some city-dwelling ministers in London. That is quite wrong, and as a Lincolnshire MP, let alone the Shadow DEFRA Secretary, I will be holding City Steve and all of his cabinet colleagues to account on these policies. It's really important.
Well, it seems as though they don't care about the people of this country. I mean, they talk about working people all the time. Keir Starmer mentions that phrase so often it's starting to annoy me. But, you know, there's an NFU conference today. City Steve, as you call him, is going to turn up. Presumably he's going to actually address it and he's going to talk to some of the farmers. But the farmers say to me, whenever I talk to them, the government won't discuss it with them. They had a meeting last week with, I think, James Murray, who's sort of the junior man in the Department of Environment, and they don't seem to understand that they've made a massive error here. They've encapsulated too many farmers who run smaller farms and family farms in this kind of, attack on inheritance, and they seemingly won't row back on it.
No, I started out feeling generous towards the government. I thought perhaps they just don't understand. But now I'm afraid they've been given evidence after evidence of the terrible impact this is having, not just on family farms, but also all family businesses, because the death tax they announced at the budget will apply to family farms. It will also apply to family businesses that run, produce agricultural machinery and so on. It will include, for example, the local hairdressing salon on your high street that's owned by a family. It will include local manufacturing businesses. And this death tax is already having a huge impact on these businesses. Only yesterday, when I called the 3 largest farming organisations into the House of Commons to talk with me about the future of farming, they were telling me that farmers are making decisions not to invest. They are cutting jobs because they cannot afford the national insurance hike that Rachel Reeves has foisted upon all businesses, and they're stopping the future planning because, and this is a really awful aspect of this policy, and I genuinely don't know how Labour ministers look themselves in the eye in the morning. This is having a human cost whereby people are having conversations around kitchen tables about that date of April 2026 when this dreadful tax will come into force, and whether their family can afford for them to live beyond that date. These are terribly sensitive and difficult conversations, and it is this Labour government that has forced families into having these conversations. It is disgraceful, and I very much hope that City Steve, when he stands up in front of the NFU conference today, that he has the courage to admit that they have made a mistake and that he will axe the family farm tax, because they have the evidence to show that their calculations are completely wrong, and yet they are not only refusing to move, they're even refusing to listen. When I was speaking to the farmers yesterday, they were telling me we were all expecting the Chancellor to pop into the meeting last Tuesday in the Treasury. She hasn't met a single farmer since she announced this policy, but she's running scared from them. And so the answer, if this Chancellor is not prepared to meet farmers to talk this policy through, what hope do we have for the wider economy when we as UK PLC have to be on the international stage asking businesses, inviting businesses to come and invest here, grow the economy, develop jobs, really develop the industries of the future? If she can't speak to a group of farmers, how on earth is she going to manage that on the international stage?
No, I don't think she is. I mean, Jonathan Reynolds has disappeared off to India to avoid it. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. Listen, Victoria, got to run. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I appreciate it. Victoria Atkins, Shadow Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs.